afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Vantage Point. I'm Lisa Hamilton. Today we're speaking with President of the Guyana Veterans Legion, Colonel George Gomes, and we'll be speaking about the affairs of veterans in Guyana. So welcome, Mr. Gomes.
Lisa, I'm delighted to be here and thanks for inviting me to the program.
No problem. I'm sure our viewers are ready to hear from you. As we begin, I'd like you to tell them a bit about the GVL. I read that it was established in April 2014, and it was an amalgamation of the Guyana Legion and the Guyana ex-GDF Association of Guyana.
Yeah.
So can you take us back to when the GVL came on the scene and how long you've been a part of it?
Since after World War I, in the 1930s, the Guyana Legion was formed as an organization to keep war veterans together, to develop their camaraderie, after they would have left the service. And the Guyana Legion came all the way through World War II. And after World War II, the building on Carifest Avenue was constructed, and a lot of the members of the South Caribbean forces during the war, that is World War II, from 1939 to 1945, over 500 Guyanese were enlisted to serve in the South Caribbean forces. The British Guyana Battalion of the South Caribbean forces, that was the name given to the regiments, the units that they established for World War II. Over 250 of those veterans went and served overseas. The others formed what was called the Home Guard. And the Legion continued, but around the time of the 70s, going into the 80s, those guys began to get, old age started to step in.
Yeah.
And it manifested itself more in the 90s that these World War II boys, they're becoming advanced in age and they experience difficulty in running the Legion. In, I think it's around 2003, there was formed what was called the Guyana Veterans Foundation.
Okay.
That organization was formed. Some officers from the GDF formed that organization, and a lot of the GDF veterans joined it. I understand that there was some difficulty with the new veterans from the GDF who were much younger getting into the Guyana Legion. The old boys were somewhat safeguarding their turf.
Yeah.
And they don't want these young boys to come and take over. But the Veterans Foundation was the main organizer for GDF veterans between 2003 up to about 2008. And then they started to disintegrate. And the Legion kept going. I think the president of the Legion in those days was a gentleman, an old soldier named Bonnie. He was 88 or something like that. So after the Veterans Foundation started to lose its numbers, I got a call from the United States In New York, there is a vibrant ex-GDF Association of New York, and they wanted to work through a local organization to help the veterans community. And I started getting calls from was I.C. Fraser at the time and some of the others asking me to look into the possibility of forming an ex-GDF chapter in Guyana. So in 2008, I think it was May, I got a committee together, myself, Hector Stout, Arno Solomon, Percival Fowler, a couple old soldiers. And we organized a meeting, and King Solomon of King Solomon Shipping, Stanford Solomon, he gave us his hotel on Main Street, King's Plaza Hotel. He gave us the hotel to hold a meeting. And I was surprised. We had over 600 old soldiers turn up at this meeting. Soldiers upstairs on the roof garden, if you see downstairs. I said, wow. And so we went ahead and we formed what was called an interim executive from among the people who were there. They voted, and we told them that we're going to run the organization for 9 months, and then we're going to hold elections to select a proper executive. And after 9 months, I was elected as the chairman, and almost the entire interim executive was elected to be the executive of, because the membership was pleased with how we ran the organization during the 6 months. And that was 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. We engaged the Guyana Legion because we wanted a hall to hold our meetings. And we started holding our meetings at the Guyana Legion. By that time, the leadership membership was about 40 people, and it included a lot of civilians. So there I was in my office, and I have a photograph. I should have walked with it. 8 World War II veterans arrived at my office. I don't know how these men got here. 2 of them were visually impaired, and they came to me. And I invited them in, and they said, we want you to run for the president of the Legion. And we spoke, and they told me, no, we're getting old, and we heard about you and the ex-GDF, and we want you to come and run the Legion. So in 2014, February, when the Legion held its elections, I was nominated, and I became the president of the Legion. So now I'm president of the Legion, and I'm president of the ex-GDF Association. And we passed some resolutions, and we decided to make the 2 organizations one.
Okay.
So in 2014, April, we wrote a new constitution, and we formed the Guyana Veterans Legion as compared to the Guyana Legion as well. One of the reasons why we include the word veterans, when we went to the bank, we went to, I think it's GBTI, to open an account and change signatures and so on. One of the young people at the bank asked me, what is the Guyana Legion? Who is your parent organization? What do you do? You know, he couldn't relate with the word Legion. And I asked him, what is a veteran? He said, an old soldier. I said, all right. So we went again to a meeting and we decided we're going to put the word veterans between the Guyana and the Legion and make it more understandable to especially the young people. Yeah. So that is how we got the name. It was registered. That's how we became the Guyana Veterans Legion.
Now, I'm not sure how many persons know this story, but I'm happy that you would have told it. So those who don't know, now they know. And the men who would have approached you, they must have seen something of you in you, hence they approached you to be their president. Now, moving forward, over the years, we've heard that there have been some concerns about the conditions and circumstances facing veterans in the GDF, Guyana People's Militia, the Guyana National Service, etc. And this led to a COI, which examined how the living conditions, etc., of veterans could be improved. Could you take us back to exactly what it was like for veterans in the past? And what is the ultimate vision that you have for veterans in Guyana?
Okay. The World War II veterans, I think this goes back to the 60s. Guyana became independent in 1966. So military service before 1966 or prior to 1966 was considered service to the crown. That's the crown in England.
Yeah.
Right? So all these people who were involved in World War II and served England. And in the early 60s, England saw that its colonies, some got independence, but they were going through some economic difficulties. And, you know, England wanted to ensure that the veterans who fought for England were looked after. So they started sending down a grant. Wasn't much, but it helped. This grant was enough to guarantee a veteran 1 meal a day.
1 meal.
1 meal a day. So England would send down this grant every year around April, and it would go to the veterans. And the veterans of the colonial era. And if the veteran had died, his wife, his widow, would have gotten half of that.
Okay.
It still happens up to now. The only thing is this year, through our representation, we've been able to get the British, the Royal Commonwealth Ex-Services League, RCEL. They've doubled the grant.
Okay.
So it is now 1 meal a day now. It's 2 meals a day. And they have brought the widows on par with the veterans. Remember I said the widows used to get half?
Yeah.
They now get the full grant. And it's paid. That grant comes in April and in October. And it's enough to give them 2 meals a day. That is the World War II veterans, and it has been expanded to include some of our soldiers who served in the British Guiana Volunteer Force, but who weren't in World War II. But remember I said any service before independence was considered service to the crown. So we got about 5 or 6 new people added on to that with the World War veterans. Now, the GDF was established in 1965. This year makes the GDF 54 years old. And 54 years, if somebody were to join at age 20 or 19, that would put that person in their 70s. The police force has been around for 200 and how much years. And if you subtract 50 something, 54 years from the police total, you would see that the police force has been dealing with old policemen for more than 200 years. But this is new to the GDF. The GDF is now getting its first set of quote-unquote old people. I made a joke Sunday with the president, and he laughed. I say, this doesn't include you, sir, because he's in the 70s. But we are now experiencing some of the older ones who came from the volunteer force are in their 80s. But it is now that we are seeing the cases of stroke, arthritis, diabetes, blindness, the whole gamut. As a matter of fact, we have presently a list that we call the shut-ins list. And it has 111 old soldiers.
So the Legion has a greater task.
It is our duty. We visit them. We get donations from Food for the Poor. We get the people in Canada. We have a chapter in Canada. We have a chapter in the United States. They send in pampers and, everything that these people need that they can afford, they send these things in. But we cannot boast that we are experienced in dealing with people with these type of ailments. In 2006, the turning of the sod for the veterans home, we found that soldiers were in the Dharamsala, soldiers in the Palms, soldiers sleeping on the road. These are people who would have given their youth in service to the country. So it was spearheaded by Colonel Morgan. He's now in Canada. And they decided, look, we got to build a home where we can put these soldiers when they get sick. So the Veterans Home started in 2006 and it was completed with government support in 2011. The home, though, can hold 26 persons. And we have, I think, right now 23. And at one time, the fee for staying there was $25,000 a month. And that is more than the pension, the old age pension that these guys get. Soldiers, but the old soldiers, they're warriors. They battle a situation. And a day we had a meeting and these guys approached me. Said, sir, the prisons in Guyana, the prisons got thieves, the prisons got rapists, the prisons got murderers, all the bad people in society, thousands of them. And the government feeds, clothes, and house them every day. Why can't we get the government to look after 26 soldiers, veterans? And we put that to it came up in the Commission of Inquiry. Some people at the home still pay, but we're looking to make that veterans home free of charge so that we can look after our old soldiers who gave their youth in service to Guyana.
When do you hope that can be achieved? When do you hope to achieve such?
Well, I whispered a word to the president Sunday, and he told me to drop him a letter. And
we will see.
Yes, I'm looking forward. You understand the logic?
Yes, I do.
Yes, so it never occurred to me until they raised it. So you don't underestimate your membership. They think things. They come up with a lot of ideas. And I feel it would be justified. I believe any Guyanese, no Guyanese would object to that happening. The Veterans Home it comes under the GDF. And I understand that since its inception, this year is the first year that it is a budget item. First, we used to like piggyback on the GDF budget, but I understand now that special funds
Will be set
are
aside.
appropriated for the veterans home.
That's good.
But my aim, I would hope for the day when every veteran, and we can put a cap on it, once you served the GDF for 3 months and you came out honorable. You know, anybody who joined the GDF for 3 months had to suffer some sickness to come out. But the intention was there to serve longer. But I hope that every veteran could be in receipt of a state pension. That was the case with Barbados. Barbados had a prime minister named Errol Barrow. He was around the same time with Mr. Burnham. But the difference is Mr. Barrow was a World War II soldier. He served in the Royal Air Force. So after he came back to Barbados after the war, and he went into politics in the 50s, and he became Prime Minister of Barbados, he ruled that every soldier, every veteran in Barbados from World War II must be given a state pension by the Barbados government, and that went all the way through. I think there are a few widows who are getting it, but Barbados, a small country, doesn't have any war veterans alive right now. Everybody has died out.
And remind us how much are
In Guyana, we have 11 surviving veterans and 13 widows. I don't know, the widows always live longer than the men. But one of our World War II veterans is Benjamin Durant. And Friday coming, he's going to be 101 years. He was on parade Sunday.
Yes.
On parade.
I saw him there.
Yeah.
Still up in spirits.
Yes, yes, yes.
And also, you mentioned Sunday. We know that Sunday gone, there were Remembrance Day activities, both at the War Memorial and at the Legion. There, the President mentioned that the Veterans Act will be enacted in 2020. And you also mentioned the Veterans Commission, and there's also the Veterans Trust. And over 3 million would have been received from pledges, and pledges would have been received to help improve the welfare of veterans and their families. Could you give us a little details how all of these aspects help to improve the lives of veterans?
Well, I want to believe that the Commission of Inquiry that was done by Colonel Desmond Roberts, he made a hell of a lot of recommendations. And to implement those recommendations, it costs some money. But, you know, everybody's predicting that the GDP and financial, fiscal, whatever, state of Ghana is going to be improved. I'm positive with first oil and subsequent oil. So I think the president is looking to implement some of the promises that he made. A Veterans Commission, that would be very helpful. There's a Public Service Commission, there's a Police Service Commission, there's a Teaching Service Commission. We have over 6,000 veterans. And, you know, we need to get them legally represented, you know. It adds legal status. Right now, the Ghana Veterans Legion is an NGO. You know, it's really, we are not a part of the government structure, but with a commission, things like we're going to have some legal status. Now, the Veterans Act has to be passed in Parliament to give legal standing to things like the commission. The Act would say that there is to be a Veterans Commission, and, you know, and the Veterans Trust, that would be a board of trustees, or all of that would help in the administration of Veterans Affairs in Guyana. is going to be different bodies with different responsibility. But the end game is that the veterans would be better represented, in the country. And it's due.
I agree.
It's overdue. Unlike other professions, we were prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice for Guyana. We rambling. And I heard the president Sunday, and I'm reminded that in 1969, this marks 50 years since the Rupununi and New River uprisings. The Harts and Melvilles planned a military uprising, and they wanted to secede the Rupununi. They wanted the Rupununi to be a separate country. It would no longer be part of Guyana. And these people didn't sit down at a dinner table and decided, look, let's have this uprising. If they were successful in seceding the Rupununi, the first country that was prepared to recognize the Rupununi as a separate country was Venezuela. But they didn't know Venezuela had longer intentions.
Yeah.
You know what that would have mean?
Yes.
The Venezuelans would have come and take the Rupununi. But the GDF went into the Rupununi, landing on some airstrips, dirt airstrips by night, because the people had blocked their main Rupununi airfield. But the GDF got in there. So I can stand here and proudly say today, without the GDF, the Rupununi would not have been part of Guyana. And similarly with the New River Triangle. The Surinamese were already in the New River Triangle. And when we got the news, I wasn't in the army then, but when the government got the news, the GDF converted a Guyana Airways Twin Otter, which had a cargo bay at the front. And we put a man in there with a machine gun, Colonel Hartley, Liverpool. He subsequently became Colonel Hartley, and we flew over and started firing. And the troops came in overland, and we were able to take back the New River Triangle from the Surinamese. So, people go around saying the GDF never fight war. Those weren't wars, but they were major military engagements, skirmishes, and with serious national implications. And if the GDF wasn't there, the Surinamese would have strengthened their foothold on the New River Triangle. So, thanks to the GDF,
Indeed,
the Rupununi is still a part of Guyana, and the New River Triangle is still a part of Guyana.
and I like how you mentioned this, but I feel like a lot of, especially young people, Guyanese, might not know about this. Do you believe that more can be done on the part of the average Guyanese to learn about their veterans and those who have served to protect or preserve peace and freedom, etc.?
You see, our new historians have got to get into more substance about our local history. For instance, I was asking the other day in Georgetown. Georgetown got some streets, Louisa Road. Who was Louisa? Who was she? It had to be some important thing that a street is named after her. But the history society at UG, I don't know how large it is, but things like those they need to get involved in and write the truth. So our military history, many people are still alive, and they need to interview people now and record the stories, because soon
They won't be here forever.
they won't be here, but there's lots of local issues that they can learn from the military. and it needs to be taught to children in school. We can, our exams now in the Caribbean are localized. It's not GC in England where we learn about Sir Henry Morgan. But every country needs to have its own aspect of history that they can write at the CXC exams. But our local historians and writers got to start, and I throw the challenge to the History Society at UG. While people are still around, you got Colonel Hartley, Liverpool in the States. The president himself is a historian, but you got a lot of senior officers from the GDF who know these things. And these things need to be recorded for our history.
Well, thank you so much, Colonel Gomes, and that's a message I hope the historians as well as the average Guyanese realizes the importance about knowing their history and knowing of those persons who would have fought to preserve and protect Guyana.
Yep.
So I want to thank you for being here today, and to our viewers, thank you for joining Vantage Point today, and please tune in tomorrow for yet another episode.